Hello, we are the Whidbey Island Wildcats Team 2980.
And this is going to be our unboxing video of the FRC 2017 Gray Tote from the Kickoff.
Full steam ahead.
So let's start with the things that came outside of the box, starting with these aluminum poles.
These aluminum poles are nice. They're nice, light-weighted. You know, you got quite a few of them. They can be used for your framing of your robot or anything else you might see them to be fit for.
It also came with these blue robot tags.
The robot tags are used to tag your robot, so in competitions, you know which robot's yours.
It also came with these gears.
These gears are part of the actual event. You use these gears to put onto the airship, and they move your rotors.
It also came with this battery.
This is the battery you use on your robot. It's a larger battery than the FTC batteries, as well as it does say, danger, does contain lead and sulfuric acid.
Now, onto the inside of the box. Came with 2 bags of the balls, or fuel.
These are more game elements. You can use these to practice with your robot and or get measurements of the field elements.
Also came with a Rev Robotics kit pack. The box also came with 6 small sub-boxes from different companies like Vex and Rev Robotics. It also came with a calendar, an alumni calendar for the FRC season. The book, How to Make a Spaceship. Many small sub-bags from Law Robotics. Each containing different varieties of robotics-related items. Also had bags from IGUS, Plastics for Longer Life, and Triangle Manufacturing Company, pins for contestants, bags from Banebots Robotics. Also came with 2 large motors.
These large motors can be used to, well, rotate larger objects that you would normally be able to rotate with your average small motors that you use in FTC or many other machinery types.
Also came with some very lightly colored First Robotics stickers.
Stickers are nice, especially when decorating.
Some data cords.
Data cords can be used to connect to Ethernets and or transfer data from one computer to another without having Bluetooth or Wi-Fi.
Connectors for the battery.
Battery connectors are good, especially when connecting to a battery.
Some small wood screws.
These small wood screws are, well, quite straightforward. Screws for wood.
That are small.
That are small.
2 more Law Robotics bags. A large plastic bag for the robot.
This is for bagging your robot at the end of competitions.
And a package with some grant information in it.
Grant information, grants will help you and your team be able to travel or get new parts for your robots in order to have a bigger and better experience with FIRST.
We're going to start with the Law Logistics bag, starting with the first. This bag contains, first, some different size wires.
So, the thicker cable of wire is mainly used for the wires from the battery to the electronics distribution board so that you can have power go through your entire robot. Well, these smaller gauged wires can be used for many things. I've seen them mostly used for motor controllers, for pretty much just everything else, sensors, everything but the batteries. Batteries require the higher gauge of wire.
The bag also contains 2 different sizes of cable ties.
Woo! So, zip ties. We all know what zip ties are used for. To secure things like your wiring so it doesn't look like Radio Shack threw up inside your robot.
And also, these.
So, these guys, what you do is, these are essentially metal connectors. What you do, just take one end, put it in here, well, you put it on a wire, you crimp it down, and then that allows you to put on connections to your motor controllers. So this is probably one of the most common looking ones you'll see. It'll go on the wire of whatever gauge it's set for. It'll tell you it's based off of color. You crimp it down so that it's smashed down on there, and then you can put on this onto the motor controllers that you have.
Next, we have the Law Logistics Bag 2, which contains 2 different types of motors.
So this first type is window motors. They're used in your car windows to make them go up and down. So once you have them set to a certain position, you cannot push it back like a lot of other motors that you'll see around. However, they also can't take too much force or it will strip the gears and teeth inside of this guy.
And then this other type of motor.
So this is a smaller type of motor. I believe this is a window wiper motor. So essentially, it does just about the same thing, except this one is able to move back if you push it hard enough. Just please don't. You'll most likely strip it. And again, it can't take too much force on it or else it will strip the gears.
Now we have the Law Logistics Bag 3. This has constant force springs from Vulcan.
Woo! Vulcan. So constant force springs, pretty obvious what they do. So they take in constant forces and can sort of like spring it back. It's really, with these guys, it's all up to your imagination and how you want to design it.
Has some specialty terminals.
So terminals used so that you can connect wires without having to solder it down. They do a lot of the same thing as those crimping ends that I showed earlier. They do allow for connections. These probably not for your motor controllers, but something very similar.
2 simple switches.
So these guys I like to call glorified buttons. They're called like touch sensors, really, or limit switches. And so essentially, once the mechanism hits this, it'll send out a signal so the programmer can program it like, hey, if you get 1 from this, then stop because you're hitting the switch.
Some shaft collars from Ruland.
Shaft collars used to put on, obviously, your shafts. It allows for easier just putting together of all your gearboxes and all that good stuff.
And various snap action circuit breakers.
So, circuit breakers, all of you electronics guys know exactly what these do. Essentially, once you hit X amount, like 20 amps on this guy, it'll stop your circuit so that you don't go above whatever we're supposed to have. Like for FRC, it's 120, about 120 amps. Is you have to have them on your electronics board so that you don't go over that limit.
And then we have Law Logistics Bag 4. This contains first some surgical tubing.
Again, with surgical tubing, it's more of how you design it. Similar stuff is used to move eggs around in sort of like factories that move eggs around on conveyor belts because it can cradle the egg and not like smash it to death. And in the past, we've used these for conveyor belt type systems. It's, again, up to how you design.
Also contains a bunch of different types of things you can use for your bumpers.
So you have the bumper material little thing so that you know this is what your bumper material has to be and what it's going to look like when it has the number on it. These guys are new to this year, at least from what I've seen in the kit of parts, and essentially what they do is, from what I've heard and from what I've read, it makes it easier to put on bumpers, from what I've read. I can't guarantee that it does, but it's supposed to help with bumpers.
Bag 4 also has a specialty motor.
So, this guy is your seat recliner in your car, if I remember it properly. And again, just like the window motor, it's not push-backable once you have it in a set position. And again, just like the window motor, be careful. If you put too much stress on it, then it will strip these gears inside of here, making it just useless. And essentially, so like an example is, if you have this at the end of a thing, but you also have like a giant mechanism on the end of your arm, and you have it go down, you're like smashing down, it can go too fast for these gears to keep up, and then it'll just strip them.
And then we have Law Logistics Bag 5. This has a bunch of these heat tubes.
So, heat shrink. If you have a bundle of wires that you want to sort of just make into one, at least visually, then you put this over the wire, and then you take some sort of heat source. We use mostly our heat gun that we have in the room, or maybe a lighter if we're really desperate. And it'll shrink around the wires so that's the perfect size for them, and keep them as one bundle. It just makes things a lot easier once you have your electronics set up.
Bag also has 2 different types of adhesives.
So we got Scotch weld, glue pretty much, and more glue so that you can, but this is for plastics and rubbers, so it's a little bit safer for your electronics. I would definitely use this over just regular, like Elmer's glue.
It also has a bunch of different types of connectors, like some electrical tape, and I'm not sure what that is.
We have some really, I believe this is industrial Velcro, and so essentially if you have the other side, you put it together, and then it's Velcro. Again, here, actually, this is another kind of Velcro. Again, put it together, so just what you did, Velcro. These two don't mix, don't try it. This guy is your electrical tape, so always use this on your electronics. Do not use regular tape. It can screw you up really badly. We have electrical tape in the kit of parts for a reason.
And finally, the box did not contain bag 6 or 7. It just went straight to bag 8. Bag 8 contains a bunch of different paperwork and samples and some stickers from companies.
Stickers!
For free things to put on your robots. And we got
So you have stickers from the sponsors of First.
Bimba, we got the ECIA Foundation, we have Autodesk, we have a voucher catalog, we have some SolidWorks, have DigiKey, we have TE, we have SAPA, we have more SAPA, and finally we have a NFPA Robotics Scholarship, and then we have some posters and Maxbotics that comes with a high-resolution ultrasonic rangefinder.
Nice. That is actually really nice.
And finally we have this.
So this is essentially just like a really, really big version of tape, but you want to be careful with it. It is double-sided, and it is industrial strength. I would not use it for regular taping needs. Still use your regular tape like duct tape or electrical tape, but this can be for your really heavy-duty big stuff, like maybe you want to put up a sign in your classroom or something, or in your pit. Use it.
Then we also have a big bag from IGUS, a plastics company. Has a metal slide rail.
Yep, so it is essentially just a slide rail. You put in another rail, and you can have an extender, you can have a linear slide, you can have a lot of different stuff. sort of like the extruded aluminum.
Also has some chain links.
So we got a tiny version of treads, chain links that aren't actually metal, which is really nice because metal chains can be really annoying to have to deal with. And again, up to you guys for your designs on how you want to use this, if at all.
Has some metal tubes.
Metal bars, again, mostly how you want to design your robot, if you're going to use this at all, and how you're going to use it.
Has some small wires.
Some more smaller wires for all your wiring purposes.
Not sure what these pieces are. Got a bunch of small pieces for something.
Okay. So here we have, I can't remember the exact name, but essentially what you do here, have it in here, and then this center red thing is able to rotate along, and so it makes it easier for sort of like your rotating parts for whatever mechanism you're having on your robot.
Also a bunch of other smaller pieces.
So spacers, these guys are not spacers. These, again, they're just like the other ones I showed, able to sort of spin around, makes it easier for that. These guys, though, they are spacers. You have a much thicker one, and then you have a much thinner spacer that we all sort of like visualize whenever we think of a spacer. These ones are particularly PVC or plastic, but they still work for whatever spacing you need to do on your robot. It's a piece of metal. You can build stuff, you can attach stuff to it. There's nothing more to go in with that.
And I believe that is all the bags that came with the gray tote.
Alright, next we're going to do some of the boxes and some of the other bags that we have missed in our first part. So we have the Red Robotics kit pack.
So Red Robotics, they were nice enough to give us PWM wires. These wires you use to connect sensors, to connect your motor controllers to your electronics distribution board so that your controllers know how much power to put out to your motors. It's really nice, pretty much essential for wiring your robot at all. These are closer to sensor wires, it really just depends mainly on the sensor. And yep, PWM cables. So if a senior person on your team asks you to grab PWM cables and you're completely new, this is what they look like. They have the black, red, white. Next, well, they have plenty of PWM cables. But they may also be talking about these yellow and green ones. But they're two very different things. These are used for the radio and connecting your distribution, your distribution board, which connects your RoboRio to your radio so that you can remotely control the robot, as we have to do for every match. We have stickers, peace, love, and robots, my favorite. And within, we have a Rev Robotics Spark motor controller. So now you can see where the PWM cables plug in to a motor controller. But do be careful, black is for ground, and white is for the completely opposite end. So there will be symbols on your motor controllers, but if you don't have the black in the ground end of here, you're gonna have some serious issues. So keep that in mind. And then you have in here a Rev Robotics sticker. So if they're your sponsor, Rev Robotics. Alright.
Next we have a little white box.
We do. We have a teeny tiny little white box with no advertisement, so probably not from a sponsor first, at least not a huge one that feels like advertising everything. We have Blinky. So senior mentors, mentors and senior people on your team will call this guy Blinky. He is your safety light essentially, so if the robot is enabled, he will give out a steady orange light. If it's not, but your robot is still on but disabled, he will blink, hence the name Blinky. My favorite.
We got a yellow box
From Cooper Busman. He is the man of all buses. And not the big yellow man. Because we have right here, essentially, your power button. You push it in, the robot turns on if you have everything wired properly. Hit this red button, the robot completely turns off. you will connect one end to your battery, the other end to your distribution board on your robot.
You've got a first box from Analog Devices.
Analog Devices was nice enough. They're always nice enough to give us stickers. Who doesn't want stickers? Ahead of what's possible. And a gyro board. So if you're using a gyro sensor, again, be careful with the packaging. Gyro boards, just like all other circuitry, can be very static, dangerous. Like, static is dangerous for it, so static can hurt it, no good. So that's why they have it in this packaging. It's a gyro board, it's a gyro sensor. So gyro sensors, essentially what they do is you turn it on, it's at 0, this is its 0, 0 position if you have it on and it's flat when you first turn it on and get it calibrated. And then what it does is it tells you how much you're angled in whatever direction. So you could theoretically tape this to a chair, have it turned on, throw the chair, and it'll tell you how the chair spun. Please don't do that. Please. No.
You've got a radio and radio wire.
So, radio wire for wiring up your radio to your robot. The radio is necessary for... So, essentially your robot will send out a Wi-Fi signal using this radio guy here so that you can, during matches or even for practice, I would suggest doing it even in the during build season. Once you have your robot built enough, start practicing maybe with just your drivetrain, have this guy set up so you can have it set up properly, and it gives you a wireless connection to your robot through a Wi-Fi network. So on your laptop you'll look for it. I would suggest putting it as like your team number for the name of the Wi-Fi network, or maybe the name of your robot that year, or just like Steamworks, and then your team number, something like that. And at competitions, once you get there, one of the first things you should do is take your radio out of your robot, so make it easily take-outable, and then bring it over to the table where they will have you set up the radio so that's specified for this competition, for that competition area, and that way it just makes it easier for their setup and allows you to connect to the competition fields for your matches.
Next we have our Vex Pro box.
We have our beautiful heavy Vex Pro box. I wonder what's in here. If it's so heavy, it's obviously bubble wrap, pure bubble wrap, and paper. No. Mini Sims. So, Mini Sims, they are Sims, just smaller. They're a lot less powerful. Essentially, mainly what these guys are used for is driving things that you want to drive really fast, like your drivetrain, even though we usually use regular Sims for our drivetrain. For these guys this year, you do not have a limit. You are unlimited on the number of use except for how much power consumption they take up. So keep that in mind. You are only limited by 6 Sims. Everything else is unlimited. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4 guys in here.
And lastly, a few bags that we missed. BB, the Bane bots.
So the Bane bots were nice enough to give us some hub shafts, some wheels, all that good stuff that you want to do for your setting up of gears, like gearboxes, or even like if you want to use this for a climbing mechanism or something. It's really up to you.
Next we have the Triangle Manufacturing Company.
So Triangles gave us Lazy Susans, and essentially what these guys are, they are turntables, so you can put something on top of a Lazy Susan and then it's able to spin super easily. It just makes spinning a lot easier. You have this white center bit, and then you have the actual metal casing on the outside. The center bit is what will be spinning, the metal is for stationary purposes, mounting.
Alright, that looks like it's it.
This has been Team 2980. I'm Tristan.
I'm Mason.
I'm Josh.
And that's our cameraman back there, Liam. And this has been the Gray Tote for FRC 2017.
Thanks for watching. Leave a like.
Happy season.